There were not a lot of bright spots in this Columbus Blue Jackets season, but I figured we would take the time to look at what they are exactly. So, on today's episode of Locked on Blue Jackets, we are going to be looking at the good of this no good, very bad, horrible season.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to bring you news, the stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day, every day. Locked on Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms and also over on YouTube. Hit like, hit subscribe, and get notified when episodes go live. I also want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of the Locked On Podcast Network. Make every moment more and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. So yesterday we talked a bit about Brad Larson and his kind of legacy as a Blue Jackets head coach, how the season went for him. And so I thought I would extend that out a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit about the things that happened this season that were, in fact, good. Because there was good in this season. Not a lot of it, but there were some good things. So we are going to talk about them. Because I figure if we start with the good, then we can move on to the bad. And then maybe by the time we finish talking about the bad, we'll have come all the way back around and we'll find something good to talk about. But this season, like I said, not a lot of bright spots. In terms of even just like individual players, basically everyone that needed to have an up season had a down season. Like Johnny Gaudreau led this team with 74 points, which is fully 40 points less than last season. So his point total decreased by, if I'm doing my math right, 50%. I bet he's mad about that. I bet he's frustrated by that. But we're not going to talk about that. That's for another episode of the disappointing parts of Johnny Gaudreau's season. I think Johnny Gaudreau himself is a bright spot in this season because even looking at, again, it's going to be tough to look at this episode without having to quantify with, well, the season was bad, but Johnny Gaudreau, I think, sparked a lot of hope in the fan base, in the city, in management, in leadership, like all of these things. I think Johnny Gaudreau choosing to sign here, despite the disappointing season, it's a good thing. I think if you're mad that Johnny Gaudreau signed here, then like, what do you like? Give your head a shake. Like he is immediately the best player that's played for this team in a very long while. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but let's pull them up. I know Artemi Panarin holds the record for most points by a Blue Jacket in a season. With 87. So Johnny Gaudreau was 13 points short of that. He had 53 assists, which was 6 short of Artemi Panarin's assist record. The goal record is still standing. Rick Nash and Cam Atkinson have both scored 41 goals in a season, but Johnny Gaudreau has immediately come in and put up like probably the second or third best season that a Blue Jacket has had ever. Okay, here we go. It was the 5th most points scored by a Blue Jacket in a season. So Artemi Panarin holds 1 and 2 for the 2 years he was here. Rick Nash holds the 3rd spot. And then Ray Whitney holds spot number 4 with 76 points in 81 games. Johnny Gaudreau with 74 points in 80 games holds spot number 5. So Johnny Gaudreau is a huge part of why, yes, a lot of this season was bad, but he's a big bright spot for me. He signed for the next 6 seasons And he was basically the only healthy player on this team. In terms of games played, there were 4 players who played over 75 games. Johnny Gaudreau and Andrew Peak both played 80. Ken Johnson played 79. Jack Roslovic played 77. And then it goes down. Eric Robinson 72, Sean Corelli 71, Eric Branson 70, Boone Jenner 68. Like, so many players played so few games this season. So is it really shocking that Johnny Gaudreau had kind of a down season? He played with a billion different people. His most consistent line mates were Boone Jenner and Patrick Laine, and Patrick Laine only played 55 games this season. Boone Jenner played 68. And those were his most consistent line mates. So imagine what he can do if next year Patrick Laine manages to stay healthy. They get a legitimate number one center to play between those guys, whether they end up winning the Bedard sweepstakes or whether they find, whether they end up taking Adam Fantilli if he doesn't go back to Michigan, for whatever reason. If the Blue Jackets have a center to put between those guys next season, like Johnny Gaudreau, I'm not worried about Johnny Gaudreau. The fact that he had the fifth best season of any Blue Jacket ever, and they were considering this like a down season for him, is in and of itself a positive, I think. So for me, that's the first good thing about this team is Johnny Gaudreau. In a minute, we are going to go ahead and talk about the second good thing in this season, which was the young players. Feels weird to consider Johnny Gaudreau a veteran in this league, but he sure is. He's 29? Yeah. He turns 30 in August, so he's one of the older players on this team, which again, extremely funny, but he's not one of the young guys anymore. And so in a minute, we're going to talk about the young guys on this team and why they are in fact a good thing. Again, makes me real excited for the future. But first, I've got to tell you all about FanDuel because it's America's #1 sportsbook. Grand slams, no-hitters, and double plays are back, and there's no better place to get in on the action for the MLB than FanDuel. Right now, new customers can step up to the plate with a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Just go to FanDuel.com/locked-on, sign up, place your first bet up to $1,000. If you don't win, you get your money back to bet again, which is super, super cool. So if you want to put some money on, I don't know, the Cincinnati Reds having a real good season, or you want to put some money on the Cleveland football team, the Guardians, I definitely did not forget what their name was, winning the World Series, you can do all of that at FanDuel.com/locked-on. Sign up today. Don't miss your chance to get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you join today. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball, and also us, the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Tomorrow we are going to be doing another kind of season in review, but we'll be looking at the bad parts of this season. Everydayers, make sure you are here for that. But let's continue talking about the good in this season because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of it, but what there is has me excited for the future. So we've talked about Johnny Gaudreau, the MVP of this team, for my money. One of the only healthy players, led the team in scoring, had 74 points, and that's considered a disappointing season. Let's talk about the youth, because a name I mentioned in the first segment, Kent Johnson, played 79 of 82 games this season. I believe one healthy scratch, one illness, and one he missed with he got banged up and took a game off. 40 points in his rookie season, which I believe is 8 points off the rookie scoring record. Can I find where I was looking for that? I believe the rookie scoring record is Pierre-Luc Dubois, who had 48. Okay, well, I can't find the rookie scoring record, but I'm pretty sure it's Pierre-Luc Dubois with 48 points in his rookie season. So, Kent Johnson, 8 points off that. Another young player, Kirill Marchenko, set the record for CPJ rookie goals. He had 21 goals in 59 games. 4 points in that. Still extremely funny that was the way that it split. It was a very much a Brandon Perry, like 22 goals and 22 assists type season. But I think Kirill Marchenko is another reason that we should be super, super excited about the future. 21 goals in 59 games. That is almost a 30 goal pace. And he had some parts of the seasons where he was really, really cold. I'm not worried. Like, his shooting percentage has gone from like an insane 24 something to 16, which is still a little high, but feels more sustainable to me. Like, if they can get 30 goals out of Kirill Marchenko, who has, like I said, rookie season, he's 22, former second round pick, 49th overall in 2018, and for my money, maybe the one of the best shooters on this team. Patrick Laine probably has that number one spot, but Kirill Marchenko genuinely might be the second best goal scorer on this team. In terms of goal scoring on the team in general, he was tied for third with Gaudreau. And then Patrick Laine had 22, Boone Jenner had 26. Again, still very funny that Boone Jenner has figured out how to score goals again. But Marchenko and Johnson as a duo, I think, is a really, really exciting future. And you look at the defense as well. Talking about these good young players, the Blue Jackets were forced to play a lot of very young defensemen. They had like 7 or 8 defensemen make their NHL debuts this season. Nick Blankenburg played a little bit last season. He only played 36 games this season. He had 14 points, a decent rookie season from him. You look at guys like Tim Burney, who made his NHL debut. Marcus Bjork made his NHL debut. Stanislav Svozil, Samuel Knazko, Billy Sweezy, who I don't know is in the plans for the future. But it's so cool to look at all of these young players. And then, they've got Corson Kulaba in the wings. David Jiricek made his NHL debut, played, I think, 4 or 5 games this season. Like, it's such an exciting time as a Blue Jackets fan we were real bad this season. The team was just so abysmal this season. But there's so many good young players. And, earlier today we talked about the players that aren't even on the roster yet, the players that aren't even really in the system, in the guys that are doing the CHL playoffs. You've got Denton Matejchuk, you've got James Malatesta, you've got Luca Del Bel Belouz, you've got Jordan DeMay. Like, it's such an exciting time to be a Blue Jackets fan. If they can stay healthy and they can add this season with, they have 2 first-round picks. They keep rumbling that they're maybe thinking about moving that second first-round pick for, I don't know, something. Presumably an NHL center, but hopefully, I don't know. I'm kind of in 2 minds about whether they should keep that pick or trade it away for an NHL-ready center. But that first pick is likely going to be 2-3. It's going to be between first overall and 5th overall. And there's a lot of very, very good players. So if they add to the group that they have right now, it's exciting. So that, again, is kind of seeing the good in the bad a little bit, I guess. Like, this team was real bad, but the draft is so deep this year that even if they end up picking, 4th overall or 5th overall, they're still getting a real, real good player that could be a potential superstar on this team for the next, 15 to 20 years. So that's kind of my second good thing about this team. I pulled up we're going to talk a little bit in a minute about, I got a couple of mailbag questions that we're going to talk about in a second. I pulled up kind of like the team advanced stats on Natural Stat Trick, which is a great resource that I use all of the time to just kind of look at what their numbers were. In all situations, they had a 45% Corsi for percentage this season. They had an expected goals for of 233 and an actual goals for of 213. Expected goals against of 288 actual goals against 329. Like the power play picked up this season. I don't have the numbers in front of me, annoyingly, but this team was bad, unlucky, and injured. In terms of the power play and the penalty kill, the power play really kind of picked up in the later kind of parts of the season. Like they went for a while there where it was just really on fire, didn't they? They had like 9 games, I think, where they scored more at least one power play goal. They had like 10 power play goals in 9 games for a little bit there. So like the power play kind of started clicking near the end. Penalty kill started strong and dipped a little bit, but I don't know that either of the special teams were anything to write home about. Here we go. I finally managed to pull up NHL.com, and the power play was finished the season 26th of 32 teams at 18.3%. The penalty kill, they finished 25th at 75.1%. So, again, like not great for either, but considering it spent the first like 2 months dead last in the league and they went like 11 games without scoring a goal to open the season or something stupid like that, like it could be a lot worse. So the power play really crawled out of a basement this season, and the penalty kill dipped a little bit. I would like to see both of those improve next season. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick the power play, because scoring goals on the power play is, I think, better than not scoring goals on the power play, which might be a hot take, but who can say? In a minute, we're going to go through the questions that I got for the mailbag. I got a couple through email, and I got one that a friend texted to me because they are an angel. So we'll talk about that in just a minute. But first, I've got to tell you about Athletic Greens, which is a product that I use literally every day. I don't have time to figure out a million different pills or supplements and kind of personalized problems. Like I was tired all the time. I was having stomach issues. I just didn't have any energy. I was getting sick a lot. AG1 has fixed all of those things. It is 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food sourced superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. It helps you start your day right. It supports gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, aging, just all of the things that you need to have a good start to your morning. And right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. There's no need for a million different pills or supplements to look out for your health. To make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free trial packs for your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Once again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Okay, let's wrap up this episode of good things about the season. Because, like I said, there wasn't a lot, but there were definitely some. So the first question is 2 good things from the season, little or big. And I'm going to go ahead and choose 2 things that I haven't talked about yet. And the first one is, I think, gosh, what is my first my first good thing? I think my first good thing is that for the most part, the players that I wanted to see succeed did succeed. In terms of, I think it's been tough to kind of judge because everyone was injured, but when Patrick Laine was healthy, he looked incredible. I thought he had a really good season. Right up until, he got hurt. He missed some time because his father passed away, I believe. It's been a rough season for Patrick Laine, and he still kind of came out on top. And I thought when he was healthy, when he was, clicking, he looked incredible. So that's a good thing for me. The second good thing for me is that the Monsters, for large parts of the season, also looked extremely good. The Monsters problem this season was that the Blue Jackets basically kept raiding all of their good players. And while that meant that, you got to see guys like Marcus Bjork, Tim Burney, Trefik Spolansky, David Jiricek, like they had Kirill Marchenko down there until he got called up and then basically just decided that he was going to stay. Like they had a very, very strong roster that just kept getting decimated by the Blue Jackets injuries. And so it feels weird to say, oh, one of the good things about this season was the Monsters, even as if they missed the playoffs, because it looked like a completely different team from last season. I thought they had very good rookie seasons from guys like Owen Sillinger, guys like Roman Ashan. I think Daniil Tarasov was a real bright spot in terms of like the numbers. I don't think he had a great season, but when he was with the NHL, he looked really good, and he was really kind of starting to find his way in the AHL before, again, injuries happened. Jet Greaves is another name on the list of another guy that made his NHL debut. And he made like 45 or 46 saves and still lost, So shout out to Jet Greaves for doing his best on a very bad team. But that, I think, is the good things for me that were not Johnny Gaudreau or the youth. It was the Monsters and Patrick Laine. Hopefully Patrick Laine can stay healthy, because if he has a healthy season, like he and Gaudreau and whoever they put in between those two guys, like that feels fun. The next question is, looking back at the season, what sort of horrible, no good bingo card should we make for next season's horrors? And honestly, I feel like next season, there is nothing that the Blue Jackets can do next season, I think, that will be worse than this season. I think, the coaching is going to be different. So they might, they might disappoint me. Now that I've said that, I'm like, the Blue Jackets can't do anything worse than what they did this season. Like, they might take that as a challenge. In terms of the horrors, I think getting a coach that's worse than Brad Larson is definitely up there. I think injury luck continuing to be abysmal is there. I think bingo card, I think probably continuing to lose to New Jersey is up there. I think the big thing on the bingo card for me is I think Pittsburgh's going to be bad next season, and I still think they're going to beat the Blue Jackets in basically every game. That's not really kind of a positive question, but I wanted to kind of finish by talking a little bit about next season. And I wanted to finish by talking a little bit about the coaching as well, which was another question that I'm going to kind of fold in. If I could have swapped coaches this season, who would have best fit the team? Which is really tough because I can't think of a single NHL coach. It's like someone asks you what your favorite movie is, and you're like, well, I don't know a single movie. I've never seen a movie. So in terms of who I would have liked to see, it would have been really interesting to see someone like Jim Montgomery, who took over from the Boston Bruins. He is doing a really good job there. I think someone like, I don't know, I go back and forth on Gerard Gallant being a good fit for this team, but I don't think I would have hated it as much as I've hated the Brad Larson experience. I think David Quinn could have been a really interesting option. I'm just looking at coaches that are that only recently signed extensions, which honestly is most of them. There's only like 4 coaches that have been around longer than like 2019, which is wild to me. Interesting option, Bruce Boudreau, fired by the Vancouver Canucks. And then they hired Rick Toshert for some reason, and then immediately started winning. But I don't know, man. I think Bruce Boudreau is is it fair to say he's underrated? I'm not sure. But I think I rate Bruce Boudreau as a coach. I think he could be a really interesting option for the Blue Jackets next season, actually. He's a guy that's on my list of guys to look into and maybe talk a little bit about in the next kind of couple of days and weeks. We'll go and we'll look at who might be available for the Blue Jackets, how they could fit with the team. Bruce Boudreau might be a kind of a sneaky, not an underdog necessarily, but an option for the Blue Jackets that I hadn't considered until right this minute when I was looking at a list of NHL coaching vacancies. But that's all for another episode. Tomorrow, we are going to talk a little bit about, well, we're going to talk a lot about the bad in this season. We're going to talk about how things could have been. And we are also going to take a look again at Brad Larson and his coaching choices this season, and how much of the team being bad was Larson, and how much of it was the team being broken, and how much of it was the team underperforming even when healthy. For the most part, I think it's fair to say that a lot of players underperformed even when they were healthy this season. So that's all tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for making this your first listen of the day every day. Locked On Blue Jackets continues to be free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube. Hit like, hit subscribe, hit the little bell button below this video, and you can be notified when episodes go live. I appreciate you all of you everydayers, all of you people who, hey, maybe this is your first episode. Welcome on in. I hope that you become one of the everydayers. Stick around. We're going to have a fun off season. I've decided this. Will the Blue Jackets have a fun off season? Maybe, but Locked On Blue Jackets is going to be fun and happening and all that good stuff. Thank you once again for listening. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the podcast at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.